viewers, welcome to your program Kicking It with Coach Donald, and in this podcast we'll be discussing the Africa Cup of Nations 2025. This year is going to be a very unique Christmas season with the Africa Cup of Nations. Most of the time we usually have our Africa Cup of Nations starting in January, but this year it's a special edition starting in December, which means our Christmas season will be action-packed with more soccer to watch from our African continent. So today in this podcast, we'll be looking into, the stadiums and the cities that will be hosting the matches. Also in the process, we'll be looking at the cost that was incurred in constructing the stadiums. This is very important because in Africa, there are a lot of countries that are not in a position to host international soccer matches because their stadiums are not meeting the standards stipulated by FIFA. So, in this podcast, we will be empowering, the sports administrators from respective countries, so that when they do their budgets, they can just align them, to those cities that are FIFA approved. You have got the stadiums that are FIFA approved. So, without wasting much of your time, let's dive into our discussion today. Yes. All right. So, let's look at the background of the Africa Cup of Nations. Which team do you think has won most African Cup of Nations Cups? Can you take a guess? Alright, while you're still guessing, let me jump in and rescue you. Okay, the team with the most Africa Cup of Nations is Egypt. Egypt have won the Africa Cup of Nations 7 times. So they won it in 1957, they won it in 1959, they won it in 1986, they won it in 2006, and they last won it in 2008. No, they last won it in 2010. So they won it 2008, and 2010 was the last time that Egypt won the Africa Cup of Nations. Okay, so coming second place to Egypt is Cameroon. Cameroon won it 5 times. They won it in 1984, they won it in 1988, they won it in 2000, 2002, and 2017. That's when the Indomitable Lions, managed to win the Africa Cup of Nations, which means if they win this year's Africa Cup of Nations, there'll be just 1 trophy behind Egypt. So in my mind, I'm thinking the Indomitable Lions, that's the trophy that they are chasing, the Africa Cup of Nations trophy. All right, so on third place will be Ghana. Okay, so Ghana, they won it 4 times. Ghana won it in 1963, they won it in 1965, they won it in 1978, and in 1982. So in 1982, that was the last time that Ghana won the Africa Cup of Nations. So in the third place then would be Nigeria. Fourth place would be Nigeria. Nigeria won it 3 times. So Nigeria won it in 1980, they won it in 1991, then they won it in 2030. Algeria will be following after. They won it 2 times. So they'll be in the 5th place. Algeria won it in 1990 and they won it in 2019. Okay. Other countries that will be following, they won it once. So remember, Zambia won it in 2012 in the tournament that was hosted in Gabon, right? So this tournament is very special to the Zambians, because remember, in Gabon, that's where the national team of Zambia in the early 90s perished in a plane crash that happened in the island, close to the sea in Gabon. So when Zambia went to play for the Africa Cup of Nations in Gabon, they were emotionally charged because of that tragedy that happened, with the Zambian national team. So they displayed a spectacular performance that saw them beating Ivory Coast in the final and going all the way to win the Africa Cup of Nations. All right. So we also have Sudan. So like I said, Zambia won it in 2012. Tunisia won it in 2004. And also in 2004, Tunisia hosted the Africa Cup of Nations. It's also special to us because that was our first time, that was the first time Zimbabwe qualified for the 2004 Africa Cup of Nations. Then Sudan won it in 1970, Senegal 2021, Ethiopia 1962. Morocco, the host of the current Africa Cup of Nations, they last won it in 1976. So all eyes will be on Morocco to see if they can win this year's edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. Bafana, South Africa, they won it in 1996 when they still had the Madimba effect. Yeah, so that was the only time South Africa managed to win the World Cup. Yeah. So initially, Guinea was the country that was supposed to be hosting this edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. So this is what happened. After they won the bid to win the Africa Cup of Nations, it was later on discovered that the stadiums that Guinea has were not like in line, with the FIFA standards, for hosting major tournaments like the Africa Cup of Nations. So the decision was reversed, and Morocco was awarded, the hosting rights for the Africa Cup of Nations. So that's why we're seeing Morocco hosting. So what we're going to do now in the next edition we'll be looking at all the stadiums that will be used in Morocco. Okay, they've got about 9 stadiums. So we'll be looking into the stadiums. Want to see the amount that was spent, constructing the stadiums in Morocco, and the cities that there will be, those stadiums. And also we'll be looking at the teams that will be playing in this specific stadium. So this information will be very, very vital to all of you guys who are anticipating to travel to the Africa Cup of Nations, because you'll be in a position to make up your itinerary, knowing you'll be in which city for which games. So I'm here to guide you on that. So don't go anywhere, just sit back and relax. So we'll be right back with the next segment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.